Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Alex and today I wanted to go over everything that I did to heal my gut. Now I've done a couple of videos on this before, but I wanted to do like a refreshed version where I bring absolutely everything together for you to create kind of a roadmap in case this is a journey that you want to embark upon. I can show you what I've done so that it will make it easier for you to figure out where to start. Now I'm not a medical or health professional, so please make sure that you consult with a qualified health professional nutritionist before making any diet or lifestyle changes. If you hear my dog snoring in the back, I'm sorry. She's here all the time and that's just the way it goes. If you're new here, I have been on a healing journey for a couple of, actually 3.5 years now, trying to improve my ovarian function. I was diagnosed 3.5 years ago with primary ovarian insufficiency. I was having some irregular cycles and I made a bunch of diet and lifestyle shifts, which got my period back on track. And one part of my journey has been to heal my gut. So I'm just gonna go over every single thing that I did. Let's just go ahead and jump right into it. Step one was for me to change my diet. Before all of this health stuff, I considered myself to eat healthy. I kind of went along with whatever diet was trending at the time, whatever everybody else was saying was good for you. That's what I thought was good for me. Basically, it just led me to be kind of duped by a lot of the greenwashing that's in the food industry. So I don't know if you've heard this term before. It's pretty common, but there are brands that like to slap like a clean labeling and use these buzzwords, and then their product is actually not very healthy. If you turn around, you read the ingredients. So essentially, that was kind of where I was. I wasn't really calculating macros or nutrients or anything like that, and to be honest, I still don't, but I kind of have a better idea of what's actually good for my body and what isn't. So yes, so the first thing that I did was to start the Egg Quality Diet by Amy Raup. So this is loosely based around the AIP diet. If you guys haven't seen my video on the AIP diet, go ahead and check it up here. So the AIP diet is short for the Autoimmune Protocol Diet, and it is a diet that allows you to identify your food-based triggers for inflammation and for your red flag symptoms. So before you start, it's a really good idea to kind of take stock of all of your symptoms and write them down somewhere. Every single little thing, like even the afternoon crash, that's not normal. You know, around 3-4 p.m. where you start to lose steam, that's not normal. So that would be a red flag symptom. Another one could be dry eyes, or it could be dry lips, or it could be psoriasis, or it could be really painful periods. It could be a number of things. Just try to take stock of things that are red flag symptoms. If you do Amy Raup's The Egg Quality Diet, she has a list of red flag symptoms, and I found that to be really helpful to kind of gauge as I was going through the AIP/Egg Quality Diet to see what symptoms were disappearing. By the time I started the diet, I had like 19 red flag symptoms, and when I was in the elimination phase, like towards the end of the elimination phase, I believe I went down to 4 red flag symptoms. So that is a huge reduction. Inflammation greatly reduced in my body. It made a massive difference for me. So basically, AIP is an elimination diet. So you eliminate a bunch of different foods, you wait until your symptoms go away, and then you systematically reintroduce them, taking note of which ones are triggering your inflammation, which ones are triggering your red flag symptoms. I have some notes here. Basically, the foods that you are eliminating are grains, pseudo grains, legumes, nuts and seeds, dairy, egg whites, nightshades, processed foods, vegetable and seed oils, artificial flavors and food chemicals, refined sugar, alcohol and coffee, and chocolate. So it is a lot, and it sounds like, well, what am I going to be able to eat? I promise you that doing this diet, I did not feel deprived of nutrition at any point, like I have with every single other diet that I have ever done. This felt like a break for my system. This felt like I was really nourishing myself with really good quality foods. That's what this diet felt like. Yes, it was challenging. Yes, sometimes I craved having a cup of coffee or a piece of chocolate, but honestly, I felt so good. And the idea is not to stay in the elimination phase forever, because a lot of the foods that you eliminate are also healthy. The fact is that some of these food groups can cause inflammation for certain individuals, and the goal here is to figure out what is causing your inflammation. Now, when you have severe gut issues, usually you're very reactive to a lot of different foods. That was true for me. I would have all kinds of issues with all kinds of food, and now that I'm on the other side of my gut health journey, I can tolerate so much more. I have a very diverse diet now. Beyond the foods that you're eliminating on the AIP diet, you're focusing on pasture-raised meats, wild-caught fish, organic vegetables and fruits, olive oil, coconut oil, ghee. In the Egg Quality Diet, you can also keep egg yolks, which I found very helpful, especially for in the morning. Amy has this recipe where you take half of an avocado and you put an egg yolk in the middle of it, and then you put it in the oven and you bake it until the egg yolk is cooked, and oh my god, it is so good. It's like a really yummy, amazing breakfast. But things like bone broth you can have. It's really not as hard as it sounds, and there are a lot of resources out there, a lot of really great AIP friendly recipes out there. I would encourage you to go and watch my AIP diet video to get a little bit more information on that. Let's go ahead and move on to step 2. Step 2 for me was was to find a functional medicine doctor and to take a GI map test. I also have a whole video on the GI map test for you guys. A little bit of background information: functional medicine doctors usually use natural forms of medicine, but they can also use pharmaceuticals in certain situations as long as they are an MD. So functional medicine doctors are sometimes chiropractors, which I would not recommend. I went that route at first and I was not very impressed, so I went ahead and found a functional medicine doctor later on that was an MD, and my experience has been much better. They just have a much wider knowledge, at least in my experience. But I also just like to have the peace of mind that I know that they can prescribe me certain things that if I need, which has happened in the past. They look for the root cause of your problems. So instead of slapping a band-aid on it and just throwing medicine, prescription drugs at your problem like most conventional doctors do, functional medicine doctors do a lot of testing and try to find out the root of why you're having certain problems. So gut health is a foundational element of our health. And so gut health is usually where you'll start. So the GI map test can give you really detailed information about everything that's going on in your gut, from parasites and pathogenic bacteria to inflammation and overgrowths of bad bacteria, SIBO, leaky gut. It can tell you so much. Viruses. It can also tell you if you have a little bit of internal bleeding going on in your intestinal tract. It gives you so much information, and it was really important for me to have this information, to have a targeted treatment plan, because just a general gut healing protocol is not going to work for everyone. So I do highly recommend doing the GI map test. This was extraordinarily helpful for me. It is expensive. I believe when I did it, it was about $350, and this was a couple of years ago. I found it to be definitely worth the investment because I am so much healthier now than I was back then, thanks to knowing exactly what was going on in my body. But essentially, it's a stool test. You do it at home, you send in the sample, and they send you the information. I'll try and pop up my results here, but basically we found out that I had high amounts of H pylori, which is a pathogenic bacteria that burrows into the stomach lining, and it can cause things from stomach cancer to ulcers. It can also allow for bad bacteria to overgrow in your small intestines and cause SIBO, which is something else that I was also struggling with. So you can see that I had a large amount of pathogenic bacteria overgrowth in my intestines, and also I had leaky gut, and I had very low secretory IgA, which is like your first line of defense in your immune system. And then I had really low levels of Akkermansia, which is a beneficial bacteria that helps with your metabolic health. So my metabolic health was not great in this moment, and Akkermansia has a lot to do with that. So because of taking the GI map test, I knew that I needed to take a specific strain of probiotic called Akkermansia, which is not common in probiotic supplements. You have to get a specific Akkermansia one. I've been replenishing that for the last couple of years. We also found out that I was having a little bit of internal bleeding going on in my intestines. So after we found out all of this, we decided to start with the H pylori, because that is the biggest piece of the puzzle, is treating the H pylori, because again, it lowers your stomach acid, so it allows pathogenic bacteria to overpopulate, overproduce, and colonize your small intestine, cause SIBO, cause a whole host of problems. To treat H pylori, I was put on Designs for Health Gastromend HP. So this is a mix of different herbs and things in it, but the main active ingredient in this blend is mastic gum. And I'm going to link all of the supplements that I mentioned in the description below. So I did the Gastromend HP, like a high dose, so 2 times a day for 2 months. It was expensive. This stuff is not cheap, but it's worth it to fix your gut. So for the first month, I did just the Gastromend HP, and I did that twice a day, high dose. I believe it was 2 capsules twice a day. Don't quote me on that though. Again, consult with a qualified health professional. And then for the second month, I started on something called Matula tea, and this is something that I haven't heard anybody else talk about, and I don't know if it was exactly necessary, but it's basically an African tea that is designed to kill H pylori. It's a very expensive tea. It's the most expensive tea I've ever seen in my entire life. Again, worth it to fix the problem, but I don't know, like if I could go back, I might just go on antibiotics for it, honestly, because it was extraordinarily expensive to treat H pylori. And while we all know that antibiotics can destroy your gut health, mine was already destroyed. I was having basically just like nausea. I was having really bad diarrhea too, like multiple times a day. I couldn't tolerate very many foods. I would get rashes on my face. I had a whole lot of symptoms related to my gut health. My gut health was already destroyed. So like taking the antibiotics sometimes is, I think I've heard it's worth it to just do the antibiotics, because H pylori is also really difficult to get rid of. Again, I was on like a 2-month protocol just to deal with the H pylori part of my gut health. And also you need to like swap out toothbrushes and make sure your toilet's really clean. It's highly contagious. Also, your partner needs to get treated for it. So just throwing that out there so that you guys know that that is like a really challenging problem to treat, but it is possible, and it is possible to do it naturally, because I did it that way. way. But yeah, if I could go back, I probably would have just done the antibiotics and then gone to the herbal remedies for all the rest of it. So when I finished the H. pylori treatment, I was with my functional medicine doctor, who was a chiropractor, and she was out of her depth for the rest of the problems I was having. I was so sensitive at this point that I could not even tolerate a probiotic. She wanted me to take a high dose probiotic to essentially crowd out the bad bacteria, which is not really the best way to do it, and I couldn't tolerate it, and she just didn't know what to do. So I decided to leave her and find another functional medicine doctor. Again, I found one that was an MD, and I'm so glad that I did that. So that brings me to step 3, which was finding another functional medicine doctor and starting on the first phase of their gut treatment protocol. So I brought my GI map with me. I brought all the information about the treatment I had taken for H. pylori with me, and they said that was good, that was fine. You've treated the H. pylori, now we're going to move on to the SIBO and the rest of the issues that you're having. So they gave me a very intense protocol. It was about 2 months. So the first part of the protocol, now we're treating the leaky gut, SIBO, the low secretory IgA, low akkermansia, low immunity, inflammation, and mild bleeding. So the 2-part protocol consisted of the phase 1 is treat and inoculate. So that consisted of basically some herbal antimicrobials. I was taking my functional medicine doctor's brand of supplements, and I can't link those, but I have linked supplements that have the exact same ingredients in them so that you guys can look at those. So the first one is serapeptase, which is a proteolytic enzyme which basically breaks through biofilms. So a lot of pathogenic bacteria will create these biofilms in order to hide themselves and protect themselves against things like antibiotics. So if you're a woman and you've ever had a UTI and you're taking antibiotics and then your UTI comes back immediately after you stop, that's because the bacteria were hiding inside a biofilm that they had created while you were taking the antibiotics, and they came out as soon as you were finished. Antibiotics cannot break down biofilms, but serapeptase can, and so that is part of this protocol to make sure that those bacteria are not hiding inside their biofilms. And then the first blend that I took was a blend of pau d'arco, black walnut, caprylic acid, and oregano oil. Again, I'll link a similar one in the description below. So these are herbals that can fight against pathogenic bacteria, but also against candida. So this protocol also works if you're struggling with candida. And then the second blend is a blend of berberine, bitter melon, and banab leaf. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but berberine helps with parasites and pathogenic bacteria, and it also actually helps with moderating, with evening out when you're on camera, sometimes you forget words and you can't think of them, and then when you're editing, you're like, it's this word, you idiot. It helps to level out your blood sugar. Since I can't think of the word that I'm trying to think of, it helps to level out your blood sugar. And then the last supplement that I was taking on this protocol were digestive enzymes. So this just helps you while you're being treated to kind of break down your food and allow you to absorb everything when you're in a very kind of vulnerable state. I will tell you, the first part of this protocol was miserable for me. I was already miserable, but it got even worse. I felt sick every single day. All of my symptoms got worse. They got much, much worse in like the first few weeks of doing this protocol, and then things finally started to take a turn. And that kind of reaction, that kind of worsening of symptoms, is called a Herxheimer reaction. It's basically bacteria are fighting back. As they're dying off, they're also releasing toxins into your system, and it just worsens everything. So that's what that is. But then, you eventually round a corner and things get better. So moving on to step 4 of my complete gut overhaul and gut healing journey was to complete phase 2 of this protocol. So phase 2 is the replenish and restore phase. So here you're focusing on probiotics and herbs that help nourish your intestines, just things that are helping to heal the lining of your gut. What I took for phase 2 were probiotics, L-glutamine, BPC-157, which is a peptide that is a little bit controversial, just so you guys know. I took it under the supervision of a doctor, but I would suggest that you do that too, just because there's some debate about it in the scientific community in the United States. But for me, it was really helpful. And then I took digestive enzymes, still kept taking the digestive enzymes, and an herbal blend. The probiotics are just like getting a good quality probiotic. I've linked a really good one in the description below, but lactobacillus, but also bifido is important to get in there, and also S. boulardii is another one, especially if you've taken antibiotics recently. S. boulardii can kind of get wiped out, and it's really helpful for combating against candida and things like that. So that's definitely a good one to get as well. And then L-glutamine helps to repair your gut lining, as does BPC-157. And then the herbal blend that I took basically had marshmallow root and slippery elm in it, which are both herbs that help to kind of heal your intestines and coat them and like build up that secretory IgA, your gut barrier, the mucus layer in your intestines. And it had aloe vera extract in it too. And I believe that while I was doing step 4, I was also doing step 5 concurrently, and step 5 was to do food reintroductions. So this is something that you need to do in a very systematic fashion. It's very tempting to just add all the foods back in at once. But if you do that, you never find out what your food-based triggers are, if you have any. So while you're in a very vulnerable state, often your body can be overreactive to certain things. That was my case. There were so few things that I could eat while I was going through all of this without having issues all the time. Basically, I couldn't have dairy at all. Now I have dairy and I'm fine. And wheat was also a trigger for me. And now I have wheat occasionally. I try not to have it too much, because not so much because of the gluten, but because of the pesticides that are sprayed on our wheat in the United States. If I am having wheat, I try to have it something be that I make at home with my own, like, really high quality organic heritage species wheat flour, because I try not to eat wheat when I'm out, because usually it's not organic and it's not the high quality stuff that I use at home. But anyway, getting back to reintroductions. So yes, your body can be super reactive to things at first, so you want to do it in a systematic fashion. Keep a food journal and note if you have any reactions, and you do it like one food by one food. So one of the food groups that you eliminated was legumes. You're not going to introduce all legumes at once. You're going to go through and do black beans and then lentils, and you're going to wait a couple of days to see if any of your red flag symptoms come up again. And if they haven't, then you can mark that as a yes, and that's okay. You can reintroduce it into your diet again. And you do that with each food until you have a diverse diet again. It's really tempting once you get into the elimination phase of the AIP diet to stay forever in the elimination phase. I was really hesitant to do introductions again, but the fact of the matter is that it's not healthy to stay in the elimination phase forever, because your diet is so limited that you're not supporting the good bacteria in your gut. You need to be able to have a more diverse diet. You need lots of different plants in your diet in order to support a diverse gut microbiome. As tempting as it is, because you're going to feel so good in the elimination phase of the AIP diet, you don't want to stay there forever. You have to do the reintroductions, but you just want to do them in the right way. So introducing one food, waiting a couple of days, keeping a journal, noting if anything comes up. If it doesn't, good. That's reintroduced. You move on to the next food. And when you're in the elimination phase, you might find yourself really missing certain foods. Make a list of the order of the foods that you want to reintroduce, and that gives you something to look forward to. That's basically it, guys. I can't tell you how worth it was to take the time. What are you doing? I can't tell you how worth it was for me to do this gut protocol and to heal my gut like this. So I am so much better off now. And even recently I went through fertility treatments, which triggered some infections. I was having like recurring UTIs and I had to do a couple of rounds of antibiotics, and even after going through that, I am so much better off now. And now all it takes if I go through antibiotics is just to, like, immediately when I finish, replenish with good probiotics, and I'm back to being really great again. So I feel I have found that my gut microbiome is much more resilient now. Of course, like, I'm still working on making sure my diet is as diverse as possible, but it's, you know, it's a constant journey. But I am so much healthier and happier now that I have gone through this. So if you guys have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. I really hope that this video was helpful. If you aren't subscribed yet, please go ahead and hit subscribe. I do lots of structured videos like this, and I share my healing and fertility journey in vlogs. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye, guys.